Let's do it again. Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. We are ready to get this show started. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be going pretty hard today. We got Tony Annan joining us, Coach Tony Annan joining us from 7:30 to 9. We'll be talking a lot of proper breakfast, proper English breakfast, Oasis, Wonderwall. Have to see if this is a sing-along with him. Music review from the Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street. Tyler, I listened to it yesterday. It's pretty awesome. Tell your moms I'm a fan. Tell her I am a fan. Been doing some studying up on Harry Kane for England. So we will have some soccer talk today. New hire in Gamecock football. What does he do? Nobody knows. We'll find out. We'll see what it is. It's a whole new position.
It's a big deal, though.
I guess. Have no idea. Bill Gunner, what's up, man?
They didn't know who I was at the front. You take too many days off. That's what Tyler just had to let me in.
How it goes.
They did not know who I was, and you take too many days off, and all of a sudden they don't know who you are. And the guy at the front desk was like, I can't let you in. I mean, I'm dead serious. What I'm telling just happened. They wouldn't let me in.
Give them a raise.
In the building, yes. Maxing out security here. So
thank you for doing your job,
kudos to the people here. So what have I missed? Of course, I've only taken 2 actual days off, but in the grand scheme of things, we didn't work Thursday and Friday. But give me a rundown. What have I missed on Wednesday and yesterday?
Well, with the new player personnel director being hired, obviously you missed the old one being first resigning. Then we found out that he was fired. We haven't had a lot of information on what that was concerned. We missed a lot of D-line talk yesterday because I was the captain of the ship, and so we talked about Phil Steele ranking the South Carolina defensive line number 20th overall. So
good Lord, 20 overall?
Overall.
How did we feel about that?
We felt great about it. We We was a little bit surprised that it was this high, but we was pretty excited about it. A lot of asterisks. We talked about asterisk championships because our guy from Chicago, who I'm blanking on his name again, Tyler.
That is Patrick Bertoletti.
Bertoletti. The hot dog eating champion?
Well,
the temporary holder of the mustard yellow belt.
Correct.
We put a real thing, a mustard yellow belt?
Yes, the mustard belt.
Are we serious on that?
That's what you get for winning the hot dog contest is the mustard belt.
You get the mustard belt. But we put an asterisk on his mustard belt because obviously
Mickey Mouse Championship, as I introduced Preston
Tyler
to
introduced
yesterday.
me to the concept of a Mickey Mouse Championship.
Okay.
We put an asterisk on that belt because it doesn't exist. As the great philosopher Richard Flair has told us, in order to beat a man, you got to beat the man.
That is true.
And he did not beat the man. So we had a lot of conversation, man. A lot was going on, man.
Okay. All right. So the asterisk championships.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah,
it's kind of like I'm trying to think who won it in the year that Jordan the years that Jordan was that those are the biggest ones, right?
Well,
is that what y'all came to?
No, we had a lot of.
We had quite a list. We had some people that brought that up. We talked about like the Lakers winning the championship in the COVID bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers same way. The LSU women's national championship from last year because they didn't have to rematch South Carolina.
No, I give up.
South Carolina's first national championship under Staley. A lot of people brought that up as well.
Oh, it's true. Didn't beat Connecticut.
Yes,
Mississippi State had knocked them off in that particular year. Okay, all right. I'll go with, and I forget who was it? Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
back to back.
Did they win back to back?
Sure did.
Okay. How about that? Did not remember that. Well, how about that? All right.
Olajuwon.
And then the Taylor Edwards situation. I've never seen people in such a tizzy, if you will, over a guy that I don't know what he does.
You and me both. But apparently the new one is going to be doing the job even better. Whatever job it is. Really, we talked about this idea of how much college football staffs have expanded, and to this point where there are a lot of people who do jobs that you may not be familiar with, and then that doesn't diminish what they actually do. We just don't know what it is.
It's evolved, and I'm not being funny or mean. It's evolved a lot from your time. Was there that much off the field personnel? I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm asking
yeah.
from when you were there to what you now know and the staffs and how they've evolved in 24 years from when you became a freshman, 20 years from when you were in your senior season. The evolution of the off the field. So, like, South Carolina hired Mike Shula this year to come in and help. Remember Mike Shula? You beat him. I believe you beat him.
Mike Shula's on the staff now?
Mike Shula is, yes. You did not know that?
I mean, it doesn't matter. Okay. I'm not saying that's a great addition. I mean, shout out to you, Mike. I appreciate you.
Coach, yeah. All right.
Donating those victories to my resume, but.
Yeah, Mike Shula is on the staff at the University of South Carolina. And
great.
Again, to that point, was it like that 20 years ago?
No, absolutely not. Every time I go to practice, I just wonder how many people they can have on a practice staff. I mean, there's people doing this, there's people doing that, people setting up the drills, people doing so many folks walking around.
Well, now you have the rule where you have the unlimited amount of coaches that can be involved in on-the-field activities as well.
Yeah.
So that only increases things.
It's pretty wild. So, yeah, staffs have ballooned for sure, but the off-the-field roles are always increasing.
And they now can be more involved in the on-the-field roles per the NCAA. But that brings us to our countdowns, Preston Thorne. Our countdowns, because last time I left you, we were, I believe, in the 60s. We are creeping lower and lower. And, oh, boy, a week from today, if you have not pre-ordered, or no, if you have, where are we at? Yeah, a week from today, our countdown has entered the final countdown for one of our countdowns.
Okay,
yeah, like that.
53 days until Old Dominion, 54 days until the Southern 500, 7 days until CFP 25 is released. CF 25, I'm sorry. 12 days until July 19th. So we are rapidly moving down the rapidly getting down the countdown. So this is going very well. People are getting excited. We had some conversation about college football. A lot of talk.
Okay. All right. Tyler, I don't know if we've ever had this discussion with you as I work my way back into the program here. College football, EA Sports College Football, or is it on the list? Do you have it ordered?
So I got to buy the PS5 first.
Okay.
I was telling Preston my wife's birthday was last week, so I needed to get through that first. I did inform her yesterday.
She didn't want a PS5?
Well, she did not want a PS5. I did inform her yesterday that I would be purchasing one within the next week, and she was cool with it, so I will do that sometime soon and then make my way to purchasing College Football 25. I'm very, nostalgic with a lot of things, so I have to actually go and buy it off the shelf. I don't want to download it.
This is, all right, number one, does your wife listen to the program before I put you in a bad spot?
She's probably not listening now.
Okay, is she aware of how much a PS5 is? Because this conversation occurred over the weekend.
She is aware.
Okay, all right. Number two, I am with you. I wanted the video game disc.
Mm-hmm.
I for some reason, Preston, I'm with Tyler on this.
Mm-hmm.
The disc, I don't know why. Having the box, having the disc, having to get the plastic off the saran wrap that they have figured out how to put on way too tight.
There is something about going to a GameStop or Walmart and buying the game and that anticipation as you're driving home of playing the game. Like when you're a kid, you're reading the back of the box or whatever it is. I don't know. There's something about that I enjoy that downloading it offline just doesn't do it for me.
So according to my son, the download will actually start on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will
takes
start
a while to load the whole game up.
Yeah, it will naturally, the game without him being at the house or whatever we're doing, the game will actually start downloading, and then he's actually going to the beach with his mother. So I will have full access to NCAA football 25 starting next Tuesday, and he will not be there. So by the time he gets back, I will have created a dynasty with Florida International or Akron or somebody of that nature and coached them all the way up.
That's your anticipation, but after we saw the 6-minute video breaking down how deep Dynasty Mode goes,
I saw that.
I think a lot of folks, especially in your age demographic, are going to be not so pleasantly surprised.
We're gonna have to go with like Alabama right off the
Yes.
get-go.
Yes.
So we talked to Matt Brown last week, who has been covering this basically from the get-go. You can adjust your settings to make it a little less detailed and less in-depth if you just want like just casual playing experience. But if you want the full thing, they've got just about everything for you.
It is insane. If you really, you said you saw the video.
I watched about 3 minutes of it, and I was like, I'm good. Thank you very much. Is there like a pack? Is there like a Pac-Man mode or something? You remember how they used to have the Madden gameplay where they could just go and run the drills? Because that would be my things. I think once we get too deep into the DMing college recruits virtually, on a video game,
Oh yeah.
I think that's where I might be out.
Okay. All right. The only thing I'll say that scared me is much like with NBA and NFL, with Madden and with the NBA game, is that I don't actually ever play the game, play the actual, like I might play my son a little bit, like, well, but I'm a manager. I'm kind of, I think I'm one of these director of personnels that like I don't actually throw a pass, I don't hand the ball off. I just run. I run the mode and then let them play. I run the play and let them kind of do that. So that's probably the most exciting thing we've got going right now because there is no actual football to discuss. Next week we'll get to talk about the talking of football. Mm-hmm. We are now less than 7 days away from the actual football. There's nothing to discuss football wise right now. We agree with that unless we want to discuss a guy who I don't understand what he's doing. The director of player personnel.
Yeah, we're gonna absolutely discuss that because everybody's telling me it's a big deal. So we're gonna talk about who he is, what he's done, why he's here, what does it mean, how does it affect the program. Of course, we have to talk about it.
Good. We'll get into that. We'll get into that next because again, there is just unfortunate. We could, if like Billy asked, we could if we want to discuss actual football, and I expect Billy from Blythewood to weigh in on this. The Canadian Football League. He wants to talk actual football.
I haven't received my briefing on that
and
yet.
if Billy in Blythewood wants to talk football, all right, send me your Canadian Football League update. There's some actual football that's taking place right now. We'll get into that.
I have not received my briefing on the Canadian CFL yet.
We'll get into a little Canadian Football League just so we can talk some actual football. 803-404-6100. I have been allowed in the building. That was a neat start to the morning. Hadn't had that happen in a long time where the guy looked at me and was like, I don't know you.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Cannot come in. I was like, wow, all right. I'll have to refund my key card. 803-404-6100. We got a fun show today. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Tony Annan will join us at 7:30. You're listening to the early game.
Got chronic joint pain, not having success with steroids, but trying to avoid surgery? Well, thankfully, there's a better way. And now it's available here from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. I'm talking about new and advanced regenerative medicine treatments that can restore and repair damaged tissue in your bad joints, providing lasting relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in precision regenerative medicine with over 100 clinics across America and literally thousands of satisfied patients. So if you've got joint pain due to arthritis, knee pain, hip pain, or shoulder pain, don't just think the old ways of dealing with pain are the only ways. You need to learn more about these new regenerative options that can change your life. So call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. Again, 803-281-6860.
And it's time for a look at your traffic and weather on your ride in on this Monday morning. One thing to report so far, that is a disabled vehicle in the right lane blocking traffic on I-26 eastbound out at exit number 125 on your way outside of Columbia. Other than that, though, everything looking pretty okay for the most part for your ride in this morning. Taking a peek at your weather, high today is going to get up to 94 degrees. We're sitting at about 79 degrees right now in downtown Columbia. There's a chance of a thunderstorm a little bit later on in the afternoon. Tomorrow's high is expected to be 98 and a 94 high with you on Thursday. Let's look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday morning.
Up and at 'em, kids. 6:19 here as we get you up and get you going on a Tuesday morning. And we're in our countdowns. We are in our countdowns. Those countdowns are dwindling, Preston Thorne. I feel like the final countdown is when we hit Labor Day weekend. The next big vacation weekend for everybody. I'm asking you as a teacher, because I feel like coming back this morning, not that my summer is over, but I will be here for the next several weeks. I got one more trip. I go to Vegas around August 7th. But I feel like, in a way, my summer has kind of concluded. I don't know if that's how teachers feel this morning as they kind of come off of that monstrous, depending on how you took it, monstrous 4 or 5 day weekend.
I would like to set a petition. I know that the 4th of July is a date holiday, but I think we need to move it to a day holiday where we don't actually celebrate it on the actual 4th. We just celebrate it on the first Thursday of July.
And just roll through it that way.
Yeah, the first Thursday of July, even if it's not actually the 4th, because
this is a controversial take, and I'll tell you why, because I saw a lot of people upset about this.
I understand the historical ramifications. I get it. I'm a history guy. I understand that. And we're going to celebrate the spirit of the date, but we just experienced the prime weekend. Having 4th of July on a Thursday is as good as it gets. It does not get better than this.
That is controversial because there was a lot of people. Tyler, I don't know about you on this. I'm interested to hear your take on this because there was a lot of people I saw that thought that was the worst set because of having to go back to work on Friday before the weekend. Now, we here at 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game, 100.5 The Game, we were all off on Friday. So for us, yes, it was essentially a...
Well, the thing is, if you go back to work, it's a Friday. You're an adult. You can get through whatever your job is. You can get through one day of it. But if you had the 4th of July on, let's say, a Wednesday, now you have Thursday, Friday to go back to work. That's actually a real work week.
Yeah, I think it all depends on if you're able to get the days after it off. And I don't know where you guys fall in this debate. A lot of people say they'd rather have the Friday before a weekend off as opposed to the Monday. I'm much more in the camp of having the Monday off because that extends what your normal weekend is, as opposed to Friday, your Saturday and Sunday are still the same.
I could understand.
We have a Monday off. It's like, hey, it's Sunday. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I would prefer to have it on a Monday and just have the longer weekend on the back end.
I can get to that. I said all that to say that, yes, once the 4th of July, once you start peeking around that corner, July moves a lot quicker than June. August is around the corner, especially if you're coaching and you're starting to think I got maybe 2 weeks left and then we're on the coaches convention and 1st of August is starting. Some schools are starting off because they're not in necessarily the old school traditional school calendar. Some of them are in year-round calendars where they're starting in late July. So, yeah, you start peeking around the corner and you start feeling like the summer is wrapping up.
Okay. Yeah, I in a way, I feel like for whatever reason, I feel like I'm back to really legitimately back to work for football season, mainly because next week is also SEC Media Days, and we'll have complete coverage for you right here. We'll be sending out Elijah, I believe Jay Phillips, and Terry Ford all get sent. The wolf pack that is those three get sent to Dallas to take on Dallas. I'll be honest with you, that is for me. That is a disaster situation because I have to be up at 4:30 local Dallas time to do the show, to be ready downstairs, and there's nobody down there. And normally that hotel lobby is freezing, and it's just me and a bunch of Dr. Peppers.
I get it.
Just remember, last year we were sampling Dr. Peppers. I believe there was a strawberries and cream.
All the various Dr. Peppers.
We did. We're just killing time because nobody is awake. But we'll get into all that next week. Right now, though, is it Usher? We've hired an usher?
Ursher, baby.
Ursher. Yeah, Darren Ursher.
Now, I actually don't know how to pronounce it because I haven't heard it pronounced, but it's spelled Uscher. So I'm going to roll with that.
Has filled the Director of Player Personnel opening for the University of South Carolina. When you were in school, I don't even think this role was an option for anybody.
It didn't exist.
It didn't exist.
No.
Lou Holtz, can you imagine Lou Holtz and Skip and Charlie trying to figure out the Director of Player Personnel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would have had somebody. They had people who were in these roles.
I know exactly who they had. I think he was there during your time.
Who's that?
Clyde Wren.
Clyde Wren was the director of high school relations. He was kind of in that role.
The same thing.
Robbie Lyles kind of filled a similar sort of vein as that. Maybe a liaison between the staff and recruits. He would do a little bit of the in-house recruiting. But a special dedicated role to this player personnel role is something that has developed in college football over the past couple of years, and you're going to see this more, especially as we move more towards a player management model, where you'll have teams start to have player personnel people, general managers, where they're handling salaries and things of that nature. So this is part of the evolving nature of college football, but I don't know what the person does.
He directs players and personnel. It's director of player and personnel.
Cool.
I think it's your relations. You've got a great question. Like, what did Taylor Edwards? Was it just his connections to certain areas? Was it his ability to connect with recruits? Was it his ability to point Shane Beamer and staff in the direction of a player? It's a great question. And next week, J.C. Sherbert will join us, and we'll get more. He is, J.C., taking a little vacation of his own. But it is interesting that this role, and you mentioned, you said a phrase, both of you, that is actually becoming more commonplace in the college game that I can't believe we're using. That is general manager.
Mm-hmm.
General manager of the roster, which I thought was the head football coach's job. But in this situation, this particular, even though his title is director of player personnel, it is a general manager of the 85-man scholarship role.
Well, I don't know if it necessarily is, because I don't know whether his role is more so based on the people that are incoming or the people that are actually there or the people that are outgoing. Is he mentoring the transfer portal? Is he just concerned with people, trying to find people to gather, or is he concerned with actual retainment of talent? I don't know. So that's why it's a very vague idea. I would love to ask Shane or Darren what their job actually is, because I don't know.
For those of you wondering what exactly we're talking about, Darren Ursher, Ursher, I believe it's Usher, Uscher, has been hired. Now, one thing, and again, I don't know if this matters, and Tyler, feel free to weigh in. He is a graduate of the University of South Carolina, graduated in 2009. Again, guys, I'll open it to both of you here in the next segment. As I read this, I guess you say a very impressive resume. He has worked for Boise State under Brian Harsin from 2014 to 2020, followed Harsin to Auburn when Harsin came to Auburn, then left and went to UCLA under Chip Kelly, was the executive director of recruiting after Kelly left to take the Ohio State offensive coordinator job. He was hired by Oregon in a player and personnel recruiting role, and he spent 2023 in Eugene as a player, personnel, and scouting consultant in his 1 year at Oregon. Think about that. Let that marinate for a second. Again, let me read you these titles again. Executive Director of Recruiting, and then player, personnel, and scouting consultant with Oregon. All right? Think about those titles. We'll talk about that.
That looks great on a resume, by the way.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, a resume. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Tyler Head. It's the early game.
Preston here, let me tell you about my friends at Absolute Glass. It's finally here. You need to get yourself ready with the folks at Absolute Glass, because they are the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. That's right. They will come out to you wherever you are, and they'll give you a free quote for any job. So if you're looking to increase the value of your home with new windows or mirrors, Absolute Glass will come out and take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. I say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
And time for another look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday morning. WIS TV Traffic Center. Still showing that disabled vehicle blocking the right lane at I-26 eastbound at exit 125 on your way out of the city. Other than that, everything looking pretty okay as far as the roads go for your ride in on this Tuesday morning. Let's take a look at the weather. Currently 78 degrees as the sun is starting to come up here in downtown Columbia. Do have a high today expected to be 95 degrees with some chance of showers later on in the afternoon. Tomorrow's high gets up to 98 degrees, 95 on Thursday, and then 89 on Friday with thunderstorms expected throughout the day. Let's look at your traffic and weather for your riding on this Tuesday here on the game.
6:34 as we get you up and get you going here on your Tuesday morning, and we'll get into a little bit of SEC Media Day conversation throughout the morning. We now know who will be attending. Only one player on that list. I'll let Preston take a guess, or maybe if you've already seen who made the Athlon preseason SEC teams, plural, three teams, 3 players, 1 player makes the All-SEC Athlon All-SEC preseason awards list.
Okay.
I'll let you guess that. But
All right.
let's go back where we just were, because I think Tyler hit the nail on the head right as we were getting out of that segment. Impressive resume for Darren Usher.
I would say extensive.
Okay, extensive.
I mean, I don't know how I cannot be impressed because I don't know what he did.
These titles, though. Oh, man.
He has a long
Have you seen
titles.
these titles?
Long titles for sure, and he's worked at some very
Executive Director of Recruiting?
sounds great.
Exactly. Player, personnel, and scouting consultant?
Always want to
I'm
be a
impressed.
consultant. Always want to be a consultant. I've always wanted that as a career goal to just have consultant on my name, because that you've reached the pinnacle of a career when you're a consultant, because people know that you do something, but they don't know what you do, and then you can
So
you
who
can
was
just
like
move
this?
around.
Who was like this for y'all?
There was no comp.
There was not even
There was not a comp to this. The way this works, this is dealing with in-house recruiting, and what it is a lot of times these are the guys that are going out, handling, gathering of the film, watching, grinding the tape, breaking it down so that the coaches do not have to do all of this for themselves. They basically are giving the coaches, here's what we're looking at, this is what we're doing. They may be in charge of finding some diamonds in the rough, but they are the ones who are handling a lot of the responsibilities that the coaches are not handling. So they're taking some of the load off the coach's plate.
So then you need someone who understands what they're looking for.
This job was previously the director of recruiting's job.
Okay.
And they've made more because recruiting has become more extensive. There's more opportunities. There's more time. And you're going younger and younger as far as recruiting. The game has gotten bigger and bigger. So, yes, I understand how there plausibly could be need for more people to fill those roles. But this role did not exist.
Tyler, how do you read into this?
It's a good question on what exactly goes into this job. And one of you brought up the point a little bit earlier that it feels like this is something that the coach should do, but the coach doesn't have the time to do this anymore, and there's not extra hours in the day, so you do have to have somebody that's designated to handle most of these things. And I'm curious what the factor of him being alumni is. You and I were talking about this yesterday, Preston, where anytime a head coaching opening happens here, no matter what the sport is, people automatically jump to whatever alumni might fit that mold. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing in this instance, or if it has any effect at all, considering the fact that he wasn't on the staff before and wasn't in a football role when he was at South Carolina, just as familiar with literally the lay of the land here in Columbia. But I'm curious to know what, if any, effect that might have.
Yeah, I mean, what he can, when he speaks to recruits, he can speak from an authentic place. He does speak as if this is a place that he has wanted to be. His Twitter, as we rely on Twitter as a source, said that he's been waiting to have this position. And I believe this is a dream job for anybody. As I told you, Tyler, if you work at a place, if you graduate at a place, it is something you want to do, especially when you're working in the field. So there's no doubt about that. And so he's excited, obviously, about having this opportunity to bring more players and more presumable wins to this place. That is probably a bonus for them, along with the idea that he's been at all these other places and he's worked in all these other front offices. Also, to say that it's extensive means that he's seen it done in different ways. He's seen the way Oregon has recruited. He's seen the way Boise State has recruited when they're good. He's seen Auburn. He's seen all of these different ways, and maybe that'll be able to help continue with this staff. As I told you in the break, the first time I saw this position, especially here, was during the Will Muschamp era with Matt Lindsay, who was in that same position, and he sort of was part of – I had never heard of that position, and Matt Lindsay got that job. And now, currently, Matt Lindsay is the general manager at Ole Miss. So there is a trajectory that seems to be building where you start maybe at this player personnel, and then you're growing into those positions as it moves forward.
I'm serious about what I say I'm not joking. I'm not trying to take us back in another direction. I wonder if this is kind of a byproduct of video games. Because, and I'll give you an example, like my son, we do the NBA 2K or whatever, and we play the role of general manager where you actually have to know how to handle finances and build a team. And with college football, Preston, as we were growing up, you had to do the recruiting and build your team, and it became more sophisticated, and apparently it's going to be even more sophisticated starting next Tuesday when this game is actually released to those of us who have purchased it early. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like people who are non-football people or maybe couldn't play the sport at a high level like you could, but we learned how to build a roster and build a team and recruit and do all those weird things. That's what these roles feel like. And then I honestly look sometimes at my son and wonder the way he has to go out and through video games, build a team, but not play the actual game, just simulate the game. If this isn't creating a generation of like brain smart general managers who know how to build rosters across the board.
There's a possibility of that, for sure. There's definitely opportunities for them to do that a little bit more, and that's something that has been involved in there, and especially with the creation, the proliferation of fantasy sports. People are more involved in rosters and checking things like that. Yeah, I get that.
And knowing, kind of maxing it, knowing your numbers, so to speak. Like, I mean, honestly, 20 years ago when you were playing, and I was playing video games, like I started learning that, I need so many offensive linemen. I'm losing 3 this year. I better recruit 4. South Carolina's losing a bunch of linebackers this year. They just got a commitment over the weekend from another linebacker. It's knowing your numbers as opposed to just knowing the players on the team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying that previous coaches did that also.
Coaches did, but what I'm saying is like non-football people. Most coaches, not all, most, Mike Leach is a perfect example, were not football players. This is kind of like, to me, this director of personnel is kind of like the geeky, and no offense to Darren or Taylor or Matt Lindsay or anybody, the kind of the geeky guy who gets way involved in the numbers and knows your numbers and is like, hey, guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're about to lose 4 offensive linemen. We might want to recruit 4 this cycle. We might hit the portal for another. That way we've got our numbers that all fit together nicely for 85 full scholarship numbers. Whereas Lonnie Teasley is just looking and going, I got 18 guys in here. I don't know how many I'll lose this year. I don't know which one of you are exactly freshmen. I don't know how many. Do coaches do that? Do they look around?
Yes, of course.
They look around like,
yes. What
4 of you are seniors.
What did coaches do their whole lives? That's what coaches have always done. It's very interesting to me that coaches are getting paid more money,
right,
and having less responsibilities than they had. What if you're not the one that's evaluating the talent? If you're not the one that's out there scouring through the tapes, and you're not the one because now you have an assistant that's setting up your drills. What are you doing? I don't know. They're getting paid more money to do less things. They don't handle recruiting anymore. They don't do the drills anymore. I'm just saying.
The other part to this,
has coaching football become harder?
The other part of this is it feels like, and it's not working to date. It's not working to date. One of the selling points for Billy Napier was, I'm going to have this army, this whole army behind me of support staff that's going to handle all of it. That was Billy Napier's selling point. I need all these people, because I think the joke is on Billy Napier is like his team photo is just massive because of the support staff.
Yeah, they have like a different social media coordinator for every day of the week, it seems like.
Yeah.
Like it's a ridiculously large staff, which there's no rules against it, but you do kind of wonder, like, okay, how productive are some of these roles that we're hiring people for?
803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in this morning. Up next, Rolling Stones, huh?
Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street. First listen to the Rolling Stones. Not pleasantly surprised, but very, very, very happy with the album.
Tony Annan set to join us this morning, and coming up at 7 o'clock, we'll tell you about those people heading to SEC Media Day, and we'll give you a little bit of an idea on the Athlon first, second, and third preseason SEC teams. We'll tell you all about that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Tyler Head. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. I can speak to what I have experienced with Jacob, and that is professionalism. The way he handled everything that we did, how he processed it, how he was able to take care of getting me into my condo, the interest rates he was able to provide. And right now with First Palmetto Bank, you can get those same kind of deals. Just give the mortgage guru a call today, 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank and Jacob Crowder. First Palmetto Bank, locally owned and operated right here in the Midlands, and that means Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise underwriting. So as we roll into July and August and September and October, November, so forth and so on, right now, if you're thinking about refinancing, buying, even building, you need to call and see what is available to you. So call Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru today, 803-719-1005. .648 as we roll along. Coming up in the next segment, we will talk about those Athlon preseason SEC teams. Also tell you about whom South Carolina is taking to SEC Media Days next Monday. Less than a week from now, we'll get into all of that. But right now, you got into a classic, I feel like.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter was saying that they was imagining that the Stones was coming, and that's when we were way back in the 80s, and they were saying, well, what about the Rolling Stones? I'm like, I imagine the Rolling Stones are going to be closer to the 50s, and as we stated, Tyler, yesterday, I feel like anything from 50 on is going to be an absolute classic that somebody revels as their number one album, right? So any of these probably next 50 albums, somebody thinks this is the greatest album. So Exile on Main Street is my first actual listening to a Rolling Stones album. Of course, I'm familiar with the Rolling Stones, the logo, obviously, Mick Jagger strutting like a chicken, Keith Richards doing a bunch of drugs. I'm familiar
He's still alive, by the way.
And yes, yeah.
I think he's in the next Pirates of Caribbean, isn't he?
Still out there moving. Obviously familiar with the Stones as an entity, not as familiar with their actual music. And it was interesting listening to this album because, one, I was taken back by the amount of horns in the album. Kind of pegged Rolling Stones as guitar rock only. But the amount of horns in the album was, one, that was the first thing I was taken back music-wise. Second, I listened to the quote-unquote remastered album, which is supposed to, take the album and make it sound all pretty. Impossible. The album is a muddy mess. It's very not clear or distinct, but that's part of the charm of the album. It's not clean. It's not pristine. With the recording of the album, as I sort of dug through the lore, they recorded the album in a mansion in France, and Mick Jagger was not there half the time, so they left this album pretty much in the hands of Keith Richards, and this is the result you get. It's a very soulful album. I really, really enjoyed the album. My top two tracks, Sweet Virginia and Tumbling Dice, came out of nowhere. I was walking yesterday. I was like, oh, man, this is really, really good. So for me this is my entry into the Rolling Stones. And anybody that's listening, if you're a Stones fan, 803-404-6100. Now that I've done Exile, where do I go next? Because I'm really interested in seeing what else they have to offer. Because as I stated, familiar with the Rolling Stones as an entity, but not necessarily as a music act. And so I'm here now. So anybody if you want to text in, give me suggestions. I'm open to listening. And Tyler, I know you said that your mother is a huge fan. So I imagine you kind of grew up secondhand with the Stones.
Oh my God, I've probably listened to just about every single Stones album to this point in my life. My mom is the biggest Rolling Stones fan. I think she's seen them 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
Like it's a big deal.
Yeah. So what was your experience with Exile on Main Street?
Honestly, they all kind of run together to me. Honestly, I can't think of like listening to that album specifically, but a lot of good songs on that album. As you mentioned, a couple of them there, and I don't look at that in particular any different than the other albums, I guess. But I tried to actually call my mom last night to ask her thoughts on that, but I think she was already asleep, so I'll have to check back in with her later today and let you know what she says about that album.
Definitely check back in. Yeah, anybody want to text in and let me know which direction to go next. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was cool because, again, as an entity, I've always known the Rolling Stones. Never actually been familiar with their music in whole parts, and so really enjoyed it, man. So we're we're moving forward. Big week this week. We had Rolling Stones today. Tomorrow we have Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Interested to go back and listen to that. Bill, what you got?
I'm reading about this. I don't know, like, when you go back to, like, the 70s and everything and how people recorded songs or recorded albums. So it's recording began for this album. It says recording began in 1969 at Olympic Studios in London, and it actually began for this album during sessions for the previous album for Sticky Fingers, with the main sessions beginning in mid-71 at a rented, as you just said, a rented villa in south of France.
Well, you know, as I read the story, they were kind of trying to get away from some tax issues in
Tax
England.
exiles, yes.
So,
they're listed as after band members became tax exiles.
It's rock and roll, man. And that's the cool thing about it. Also, you read it about the house that they were living in. There were some hangers-on, some paparazzi, some folks that maybe were dealing in illicit substances around the house, you know. And honestly, you can hear it in the album. It sounds as if the album was influenced, I should say.
It's really interesting to read about how this all came together.
Rock and roll, man.
For rock and roll at its Stones. Yeah.
Not a lot of groups made great music sober back in the day. So
I don't think a lot of groups.
Not
based on what was it? What do we talk about? Oasis, which we'll talk with Tony in a little bit about.
I was
gonna say I don't know how many albums are made. By the way, I went down a path on I think the 4th of July or the 5th of July, one of the 2 days, with not to jump away from the Rolling Stones, but the release of the Kendrick Lamar. What is it?
The video for Not Like Us.
Not Like Us. Yeah. I went down a path on that.
Oh, it was a great victory lap for all of us. Get Drake out of here.
And then Drake showed up at the white party. Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah. And then he made his he reemerged. All right, we'll get into that. We'll talk a little bit about SEC Media Days coming up next week, next Monday. Shane Beamer speaks. Who's he taking with him? We'll talk a little bit about that. Which one of the 3 is on the Athlon preseason All SEC teams? We'll tell you about that too coming up in the next segment. Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. As we roll through the summer, you're probably coming off of some of those 4th of July parties. Now your house is all a mess. People have tracked dirt and all kind of debris onto your carpets, your rugs, your tile, your upholstery. Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is ready to keep your home insanely clean, though, but you need to act fast. Take advantage of their summer sale and get 15% off all cleaning services. You heard that right, 15% off all cleaning services. Carpets, air ducts, upholstery, and area rugs, all 15% off when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game. Just give me a phone call, 803-262-4020, or schedule online. Use ZeroesColumbia.com. Just use the promo code Summer Sale. Again, that's 803-262-4020. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game, and you'll get 15% off all cleaning services. Zero, spell it backwards and forwards. It's the right way to clean.
And let's take another look at your traffic and weather. If you're right in on this Tuesday in the WIS Traffic Center, still showing that disabled vehicle at I-26 eastbound and exit 125. It is out of the roadway, however, so traffic should be flowing through that area at an okay pace as of right now. Other than that, no major accidents to report in and around the city. Taking another peek at the weather as the sun continues to come up. We've gotten to 78 degrees. High today is going to get up to 95 with some rain expected to come later on in the afternoon. High tomorrow is going to touch 98 and then 95 on Thursday before we dip to 89 with some thunderstorms coming in on Friday. Let's look at your traffic and weather on your Tuesday here in the game.
One hour down, two more to go. Tony Annan, men's soccer coach, who is a frequent guest here on the program, will be joining us coming up at about 7:30. We'll talk a little soccer. We'll talk a little bit about the failure of the USA. We'll also get into a little UEFA Euro Cup taking place right now. Are you ready for that?
I have a hot take that I've read an article in The Athletic, and I need to ask an expert about.
Excellent. We'll get into that with
involving Harry Kane.
Well, all right. Speaking of a little bit of English soccer, we'll get into our English, but I guess I should say the British music scene there with the Stones and everything. We'll also get his take on baked beans, and hope he's ready. He normally comes in a serious tone, ready to have serious discussion. Boy, he may not be happy with us after this morning. And Coach seems like a guy that we don't want to make unhappy.
No, Coach definitely feels like he has a special set of skills, and you don't want to know about them.
So Coach Tony Annan said to join us here coming up in about 30 minutes. I'll hang out and we'll get a lot of his takes on. I will ask him, but I'm interested in a serious conversation on the role of support staff. He doesn't have quite as much as a football or even a basketball staff, but we will discuss with him a little bit South Carolina's hiring, not necessarily his opinion. He's got his own team he's got to worry about, but the role of a support staff now in today's age of college sports.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that did not exist previously that people have to deal with. And so you have to have folks that are able and capable to handle it better than other people so that you can focus your attention on whatever your specific job is at hand.
Well, I mean, even for some coaches, there's a well, I shouldn't say some, for all coaches, there's an element of fundraising as well. So you don't have as much time, maybe Lou Holtz 24 years ago or 20 years ago, to just coach your football team. And I'll be honest, it's why, to go down a path here for a second, it's why I really like the baseball setup for Paul Mainieri, because it really feels like he's just set up to, hey, man, go do what we used to do 30 years ago. Just coach your baseball team. Work on the infield fly rule. Work on pickoff, whatever you want to say. Work on the old wheel play or whatever you want to. He is just there to coach baseball, with Terry Rooney and Monty Lee specifically set up to handle, this is how we do NIL today. This is how we handle the transfer portal today. This is how we handle recruiting today. Coach, we're going to give you the ingredients, and you go be the chef.
That's true to an extent, but if you was to talk to Coach Paul Mainieri or any of these older coaches, they would tell you that when they started coaching, they had to recruit. They had to wash the laundry. They had to line the field.
Right.
They had to do the infield. They had to drive the bus. So it's not as if they ever were just showing up to the field and coaching. Coaching has always involved other peripheral activities that you had to do in order to get to the main thing of your team at a game. But I'm sure, Coach, there are things that Coach Paul Mainieri has done that maybe Monty Lee has never had to do as a coach. Or maybe some of the younger coaches have never had to do, because older coaches have always had to have extra responsibility. And when high school coaches hear college coaches talk about, oh my God, I got to do all this stuff, they're like, what? You know, I just cut the grass and lined the field before my team even came in this morning, and I had to teach geography class this morning? What are you talking about? Come on, man.
That's very true. It's very legitimately true, and an interesting discussion. Just going back into you go back as far as you want, but I'll go 70s, 80s, even the 90s with, you're right, high school coaches having to do. Now the high school coaches that I see, a lot of, not all, but the high school coaches I see, they've got support staff.
It's grown.
Some of these high schools are getting bigger and bigger and bigger to where they have support staff.
Correct.
And people that handle all that. But we'll talk a little bit with Tony Annan about that and what support staff does for college programs. Because, again, the news yesterday, South Carolina hiring, Darren Usher is, I believe, how we say this. That creates as many jokes as you want it there.
Usher, baby.
There you go. Hiring Darren Usher to fulfill the Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting. And Preston, to an extent, I can't believe we're talking about that, but welcome, A, to July, B, to where we are at in college football, right?
Listen, man, Shane Beamer made a big deal about it on Twitter. We're obligated to talk about it.
Okay, there you go. And Usher will replace Taylor Edwards, who had spent the past 3 seasons with the Gamecocks as Director of Player Personnel. Usher, again, was hired in late January, as it says, as UCLA's Executive Director of Recruiting under then head coach Chip Kelly. After Kelly left to take the Ohio State offensive coordinator job, Usher was hired by Oregon in a player and personnel recruiting role and spent the 2023 season in Eugene as a player and personnel scouting consultant in his first stint. So he had left Eugene, gone to UCLA, went back to Oregon, and has now come home, if you will, welcome home to the University of South Carolina. Did you follow all that?
I followed it very specifically, and I have a comment that I will reserve for off the air.
All right, there you go. So he is bounced around, but he's back.
That's not great radio, but I don't think I should say it.
Back on the East Coast. A week from today, we will spend a lot of the program, and Tyler will do the same on his show, recapping and over-evaluating, over-analyzing every word Shane Beamer. We will just overanalyze next Tuesday because Shane Beamer speaks Monday in Dallas at the SEC Media Days. And a week from today on this program for 3 hours, we will just overanalyze every little word Shane Beamer says, but we will also overanalyze the words of the people he takes.
Mm-hmm.
And he is taking 3 people with him. He is taking Alex Huntley, linebacker Debo Williams, who's back for his 22nd year of college football, and back for his 24th year of college football, wide receiver / quarterback / fullback / tight end, Luke Doty.
Yeah. I only have one comment. These guys are going to knock it out the park.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be very professional. However, I don't think we're going to get any life out of these comments. I've heard Boogie talk for 5 years now. He's awesome. He's probably going to end up across the street in the State House. Very, very, very stern, very political. Luke Doty's going to say everything properly. Debo Williams, I've never heard him waver from the message of, I am sent to kill people on the football field. I don't think any 3 of these folks will say anything interesting. That's my take.
And that's good. I've said it. Look,
I guess.
Going back to, was it February?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was February where I was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want the Full House videos. I don't want the Office videos. I want a nice, quiet offseason. You show me, you prove to me starting August 31st that you mean business. Just win games. I don't want to see all the social media stuff. Just win games. Kudos to them. They have done that here as we sit here on July 9th. They have had, to me, a very quiet offseason. Don't go mess it up with somebody being loud and giving me a video next Monday going to SEC Media. Just go talk, get out. Let's get to August 31st.
No, I was going to say that I'm trying to think who they had last year. They obviously brought Spencer. They brought Tonka. Who's the third person they brought a year ago?
A random guy.
Was it Rashawn? No, he's still
I
there.
actually think.
The lineman.
I think.
A lineman.
I think. I'll look it up. I'll let you 2 talk for a second, and I'll look it up. I believe it was one of the kickers. I want to say it was Kai Kroger.
I think it was Kai Kroger. I think you're right.
Which
about
is
that.
warranted.
But I'm trying to think because last year, the only real talking point coming away from what any of the players said was when Tonka was asked about toughest environments, and he didn't include Sanford.
That's right.
And that ended up getting all the way to Kirby Smart, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's the only notable thing I can think about from what we actually heard from players a year ago. And again, looking at these guys that they're bringing this year, especially with as many questions as we have on this team, I don't know how much detail we're going to get out of these guys other than everything's going great. Receiver room's looking good. Defense is looking great. Offense looking great. I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot.
From what I have gathered, what I've learned about these 3 young folks is that I would like them to be my spokespeople. They are going to be great representatives for the program. They're going to speak well, and they're going to speak properly, and they're going to say everything correctly. I don't think there'll be a lot of sizzle.
Doesn't need to be. And I'm with you on that. I agree with you. Look, I'll say this. As someone who has covered SEC Media Day, both for the internet and now, by the way, toot my own horn for a second because it popped up on one of my social media things. Last Friday was my 8-year anniversary.
Nice.
Here at 107.5. The game popped up 8 years ago. I began this morning show. But having covered it, this is becoming – it's super exciting because we're talking football. But we're not talking football. It's become really boring. I'm kind of hyping it up. Oh boy, next week we're gonna have stuff to talk about. We're gonna actually talk about the talking of football. It's actually it's become a very boring event. And now you look across the league. Lane Kiffin is kind of interesting. Eli Drinkwitz, say what you want about him. Eli Drinkwitz is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy him. Is there anybody else you're really excited to hear from?
You kind of have to sift through the haystack to find the needle. when it comes to media days now, where it's like out of the entire week, there's probably going to be a handful of quotes that we're going to be talking about. Maybe one from Kiffin, maybe one from Drinkwitz. Maybe Kalen DeBoer says something interesting. But for the most part, everybody's just plugging their own program. Everything's going great. We're expecting championships. Everything's on track. Like, we don't get as much insight as maybe we would like to with a lot of these.
Kalen DeBoer is store brand vanilla ice cream. He is store brand vanilla ice cream, as vanilla as vanilla can get.
Here's the funny thing, that if you took the Alabama hat and the Alabama shirt off him, could people in the state of Alabama pick him out of a lineup?
No.
Honestly, at this point, maybe once he's on TV a little bit more, probably. But like at this point in time, I would say no.
You walk Kalen DeBoer, Mike Elko, Jeff Lebby.
This is good. I like where this is going.
You walk those three into a restaurant, nobody knows who they are. It's 3 insurance agents that just sat down for lunch. Nobody has a clue.
I like where this is going.
Nobody has a clue.
There's a solid point on that.
I have enjoyed I'll be honest, we talked about this, wasting away and not wishing away your summer. Clark Lee. I was trying to remember who the Vanderbilt coach was.
Come on, man.
Literally was trying to remember who the Vanderbilt coach was. Clark Lee's been around. We kind of know him. But if you walked the three newcomers into a restaurant in Dallas, just no hat, you can even put their logo shirts on them, and people would be like, oh. One dude from Alabama, one dude from Mississippi, and one dude from over there in Bryant.
Yeah, that's an interesting group there. That's good. People are getting along. All those fan bases are getting along. That's awesome.
Yeah. Nobody would know who those people
are. That's a good point. Because honestly, I couldn't pick Jeff Lebby out of a lineup. I'm not going to Google him.
Does Jeff Lebby have hair? Is he short-haired or is he bald or does he have hair? I don't either.
It's a good question. I'm very familiar with the name, obviously, but could I pick him out of a lineup? No, not necessarily. But, yeah, you're right. Media days have become a lot less interesting as everything has because everybody's just trying to protect the team to the next point. But if they're going, which is in direct conflict with the SEC trying to make it into an event.
Right.
So they're trying to make it into an event while everybody else is becoming more and more boring. We did have a couple years ago, the Soulja Boy hit before Shane Beamer hit the Soulja Boy. That was something that was cool. That was interesting. I don't know if he's in that same mood
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
But again, he is assured that by picking these 3 young men who are awesome representatives of the program, let me continue to state that, we won't hear much.
Of those 3, I'll get to this in the next segment, who is on the Athlon All-SEC teams? Now, there's 3 of them, first, second, third team. Think about that. I'll tell you who that is next. We'll get into a little bit of that, and we'll get back into some of this with SEC Media Day because you never went, did you? Did you ever get taken? You didn't get taken? No. Holtz didn't think that highly of you, huh?
No, probably not.
Future radio host Preston Thorne.
No, he did not. No, he did not think very highly.
Speaker for a living.
Especially my senior year. It was not great.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I'll tell you about these Athlon All-SEC teams, and
he was not happy with me.
One of those three is on the list. I'll tell you about that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, producer Tyler Bird, and this
Tyler Bird, new producer
Ed Bird. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. We'll get to it. Yeah, I'm back, baby. Like 6 weeks into another vacation. It's the early game.
Got chronic joint pain, not having success with steroids, but trying to avoid surgery? Well, thankfully, there's a better way. And now it's available here from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. I'm talking about new and advanced regenerative medicine treatments that can restore and repair damaged tissue in your bad joints, providing lasting relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in precision regenerative medicine with over 100 clinics across America and literally thousands of satisfied patients. So if you've got joint pain due to arthritis, knee pain, hip pain, or shoulder pain, don't just think the old ways of dealing with pain are the only ways. You need to learn more about these new regenerative options that can change your life. So call QC Kinetics now at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. Again, QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860.
Time for another look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday. Things starting to pick up a little bit out there on the roadway. Still showing that disabled truck at I-26 eastbound exit 125, though it is out of the roadway. A couple accidents to report. Going to start off Faro Road and North Pines Road, then have another one at Augusta Road and Clemson Road as well. So be careful as you're making your way through those areas. Take a look at the weather. 78 degrees right now in downtown Columbia as the sun is almost fully up. High today is going to get up to 95 degrees. Do have some rain expected later on in the afternoon. High tomorrow at 98. High Thursday at 95. Dips to 89 on Friday with some thunderstorms expected throughout the day. Let's look at your traffic and weather for your Tuesday here on The Game.
We'll get into some movie talk. Boy, I didn't see where we were going with that. Coach Tony Annan joining us in studio this morning as he is now with us, and we'll talk with him a little bit apparently about some movies as he was bringing something up there. But 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. We'll also get in with him. The how support staff in college impacts your program, and we'll talk with him about that coming up in just a second. Real quick, I did want to bring this up, and Coach, I'll start with this. As a coach, when a preseason awards list comes out, how do you handle it? How do you try to handle it with your team? Because yesterday, Athlon, and I know college football is a little bit different because everybody has a college football preseason awards team. Like, it's just, that's every radio show, every television show, every magazine that comes out. So there's 972 of these things. Soccer's a little bit different. I think there's only about 2 or 3 of them, I'm guessing. But how, when these things come out, how do you try to handle it? Do you even pay attention to it?
It's one of the things that's baffled me in college sports. I think a lot of stuff has baffled me, but that is one of the things I just don't get, like a pre-season awards when a ball hasn't been snapped, a ball hasn't been kicked or anything. I pay no attention to it because it's all about the season, right? So I don't pay any attention to it. I try not to play it up to the guys. None of the guys really at the moment are asking about it, so we kind of just let it slide and go. I don't think in soccer it's that big a deal. Obviously with bigger sports it is, but I pay zero attention to it. I have to do a ballot, of course, which, again, puzzles me because the ball hasn't been kicked, so how do you get an award for it? But that's where we are, and I'm not complaining about it. For me,
you don't understand
it. It doesn't register for me.
Yeah, it's based on the previous season. It should be preseason. It should be last season's first, second, third team.
Postseason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Preston, did y'all take, as a player, did you, I mean, I'm not saying did you look for it, but did you take notice? Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You look for it and you take notice. Yeah,
really?
Of course. Yeah, because if somebody's listed on there, one, you want to figure out if you're on there. Okay, 2, if I'm not on there, is he on there? Okay, if he's on there, why is he on there? As a player, you're always looking for a reason to be motivated, or if one of your teammates is on there, you're looking for a reason to talk trash to him, like, oh, here comes Mr. All-American walking in or something like that. So you're always going to take notice, but it's not as if it's going to affect your play. I mean, because we've seen times where guys have been preseason this and that, and then it doesn't show up in the season. And, Coach, as you know, people improve over summers, and then all of a sudden new people show up for whatever reasons, and guys that weren't expected to have great seasons end up having a great year. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you feel if you were on a preseason, a preseason awards list as a, let's just say a junior, but you're not on it as a senior?
You haven't done the right things in your senior year?
I guess, yeah. I would say that means you didn't have as good a year as they anticipated.
If you did, Kai Kroger, the kicker for the University of South Carolina, punter, obviously. Now, this is just Athlon, so take it for what it's worth. It's only Athlon. It's one magazine. Kai Kroger, last year was a preseason awards list kind of guy. He was all over them, right? He was all over it. This year, at least the first one that comes out, not listed at all. Not on a single one of the Athlon. Again, Athlon magazine has released their 2024 preseason all SEC. Again, going to Coach's point, preseason all SEC conference teams list. There's 3 of these. South Carolina does not have a single player. This is really just welcome to the world of college sports, Coach, and you're familiar with this, that we are in. South Carolina does not have a single player on the first team all SEC list. Not a single player, first team, offense or defense. They do put three players on the second team. You want to take a quick guess at who those 3 players are, Preston Thorne?
No, I do
All
not.
3 are defensive. All 3 are defensive.
I would imagine they're returners. I would imagine they're guys. Well, all right. Let me do this. Nicky Manwari.
Yep. Bing.
Thank you. Tonka Hemingway.
Bing.
And Debo.
Debo was the one that surprised me.
Okay. He's on there?
Second team.
All right.
Second team. Those are the 3 that are on there.
Wait, I just did the same thing, and no disrespect, coach. I just did the same thing that all the coaches would do. They just say, "Oh yeah, I remember watching him on film last year. Put him on the ballot." Because they're not. It's not as if you're scouting other teams. So you're just going by guys that you remember from the last year. It's like, "Oh yeah, I remember him running up and down the field. He was pretty good. Let me put him down."
And then I'll give you South Carolina's got one player, offense and defense, just one player total on the third team Athlon preseason all SEC teams. One player. He's an offensive player. Can you guess who he is? Offensive, third team, one player.
No.
I'll
Lee?
I'll give you a hint. He didn't even play here last year.
Oh, no, definitely can't.
Rocket Sanders.
And again, you have Rocket Sanders, who's transferring to a new school, which means he's in a whole new offense. He's coming off an injury. So, again, the coach just went by and was like, "Yeah, Rocket? That's a great name."
He saw his name.
Saw
his name. Was like, I remember 2 years ago.
He's good.
How do you Coach? I'm not picking on you. I'm asking. You said it. You got to fill one out. I think Steve Spurrier was notorious for handing it to Steve Fink and being like, "Steve,
pick some
here
players."
you go."
It's. I mean, I don't know if people take it seriously or not. I'm just telling you from my perspective. I do
because, Coach, I'm sure this has happened. When y'all are watching film of other opponents, you see guys jump off the tape, and then the question is, "Oh, who's that guy?" And then you go from there. But if you haven't watched anything, you don't know.
And they're pretty consistent through the season. And
right.
When the ballot comes along, you say, "Hey, we need to pick 3 guys." You need to pick 3 of our guys. Okay. Who do I pick that's not going to go to the head? Who's going to come in, walking in like Conor McGregor into the preseason locker room because he was on this list?
Yeah.
And then you start thinking that way. This guy's a good kid. Give him. I don't know. I just don't get the preseason thing. But that's just me.
How do you?
Sure, somebody will complain.
How do you with your player? If you see one of your players on there, do you I say confront as if you're Conor McGregor in Roadhouse? How do you handle the hey, congratulations, but we got a season to play?
Yeah, well done. Okay, let's go. Move on. Prove it. Live up, talk the talk, walk the walk.
803-404-6100. We will get into some actual soccer discussion. People are not happy. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that people are talking about USA soccer. But with the World Cup 2 years away, roughly about this time, 2 years, we're probably 24 months out, and we are guaranteed a spot. People were not happy last week. We'll get your take on that as we roll along. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Coach Tony Annan in. Tyler Head is with us. There you go. I'm not combining you and Ed Bird. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. You heard Tyler give the weather report just a little while ago, and it's going to once again be hot. And it's only July. Just imagine what August and September are going to be like. I hope your air conditioner is working properly. And if not, it's time to call AAA Heating and Air and get a free replacement estimate today. That's right, you heard that. You can call AAA Heating and Air, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you and get a free replacement estimate. And not only that, but right now, AAA Heating and Air is offering, when you buy a brand new heating and air unit, AAA Heating and Air is offering you no interest and no payments. You heard that correctly. No interest, no payments until 2025. So call AAA Heating and Air today. Get that free replacement estimate and get a brand new heating and air unit installed at your house with no payments and no interest until 2025. 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Time for another look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday at WIS TV Traffic Center. Still a couple accidents to report. One out at Farrell Road and North Pines Road, and then another one going to be out at Augusta Road and Clemson Road, so be careful as you're making your way through those areas. That incident's finally cleared up, by the way, at I-26 eastbound at exit 125, where there was a disabled vehicle in the road a little bit earlier. Taking a peek at your weather now, it is 79 degrees. High today is going to get up to 95. Do have some rain expected later on the afternoon. High tomorrow is 98. 94 on Thursday. High on Friday is 88 degrees with some thunderstorms expected as the day goes long. Let's look at your traffic and weather for your Tuesday here on The Game.
.35 here as we roll on. Coach Tony Annan joining us in studio. We've been talking a lot of college football this morning. South Carolina hiring Darren Usher as Director of Player Personnel, and we'll get back into that. Not so much from the hiring standpoint, but what Coach thinks of, as you were kind of saying it, just as you the support staff that you have to have. You, by the way, made some hires, and we'll get into that a little bit as you were able to make them official. But the support staff around it. But let's talk a little USA soccer here as I look up Euro Cup taking place. That's been a blast to watch, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a summer of fun.
I mean, it's maybe not for England. That was that.
Yeah, they're in the semis. What it may not look pretty.
I
This
say
is
that.
the thing. I've been reading. I've been preparing for this day.
I'm thanking you for that.
So what I've gathered is that England is winning, but not the way you all want them to win.
Don't you all me, please. Don't lump me in with all those guys.
I'm sorry. Not the
I'm
way.
still a coach, remember. I'm not a fan. I'm
Not
a
the way
coach.
people want them to win. Is that accurate?
The expectation of the quality of the squad,
Yes.
because they're from the Premier League, I think biases England fans to think that we should be amazing. But if you look at the Premier League teams, they're full of other players from other countries. It's
Right.
not all British players. Now, does Britain have talent? Yes, it does. There's talented players. It's a young generation. But the expectations of the fans are way too high, in my opinion. But they changed the formation. They looked better. In credit to the coach for actually changing the formation, having a go, right, not being as conservative with his team. And it worked. You know, they weren't amazing, but they dominated the game still. And created more chances, and I just think the expectations are too high for England fans, and they're deluded, some of them.
Well, while we're here and you talk about changing the formation, obviously I've been following Harry Kane, and I have this really interesting graph up here, this connection point, and what we're wondering, and as I read the article, is will the coach make a change with Harry Kane?
No,
he will not. Is it because he can't, or is it because he's why not?
It's.
I know we're getting deep here.
Number one.
we're
He's
getting
the captain.
handsy.
He's the leader, but he's also clutch. Harry will come up when you need Harry to come up. You know, and listen, Harry Kane has not been great. He hasn't had a great tournament, and he doesn't look a shadow of himself.
That's what they taught. It was questioning his fitness.
But coaching's not easy, man. It's not just roll out things and shuffle things around, and that's not what coaching is. I mean, you can take chances with your formations, but your players you've got to give your belief to your players. You know?
Well, getting back to international soccer, as coaches, they don't have these guys for very long also, right?
Yeah, they're not developing them. They're not changing them.
So is it really difficult to implement a strategy when you don't have the teams together for that long?
Not a tactical strategy, but, you know, your relationships over a course of a 10-month season are important, right? Your centre-back
Right.
pairing, your central midfield pairings, your striker to your wingers or striker to your attacking midfielder pairings. Those are relationships that are developed over time, over scenarios where it's repeat. With the international stuff, it's the best players in the country getting on the field and playing together, you know, and it's not always easy to put your strategy or your method into that and make it work. You know, I mean, I thought Germany were fantastic. I loved watching Germany. I thought Spain were fortunate against Germany to go through. So it doesn't always work. You know, I mean, but being a fan is way different than being a coach. And you can't walk in his shoes until you've had to face the problems. You don't know what's going on in camp. You don't know. I mean, he's being ridiculed by the media. I mean, it's not easy for him. I've got to stick on his side for that.
Spain and France today, 3 o'clock, and then tomorrow Netherlands and England, and the winner of those two play in the finals on Sunday. I have tried to explain it to some people who have gotten into watching it. I don't know. I really don't. The best I can say is maybe basketball, but we have been so dominant as a country in basketball that I don't know if we have the passion for it. Like when we lose, it's almost more like an embarrassment. I can't put into words, and maybe you can, what it would mean for England to win this Euro Cup. Not even the World Cup, but this particular. Can you describe that, what it would mean for them? Because I don't know if we have anything in this country, sporting-wise, where we become as passionate about it as a country as what soccer is to these four left, Spain, France, Netherlands, and England.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the US is a different kettle of fish altogether when it comes to championships, right? You call World Series baseball. It's not a World Series. It's not the world.
Right.
So, but you hype it as the World Series. This is Europe, right? And all the best teams in Europe going for just like a World Cup, but it's not as big, right? There's not as many countries. But like watching Georgia and Slovakia and Slovenia, countries like that do really well. It just shows you the gap that's being closed across the continent, right? So it's a huge deal. I think if England win it, it'll be the first time they've ever won the European Championship, which is massive for a country that thinks
very highly of themselves in
very
soccer.
highly of themselves
Yes.
when it comes to football, because it's kind of the home of football, allegedly. But it's a big deal. It's like the US men's winning the World Cup, I would say, because that's how big it would be here if US men's could win the World Cup. I think.
I don't know what I truly don't know what it would be like if we won the World Cup, because yes, there would be a large contingent of people that would be excited. There would be a middle class, if
It'd be
you
a
will,
bandwagon crowd as well.
right? That all of a sudden got involved. I mean, I still remember. It might have been 12 years ago or farther back, and I think we played. I think on the 4th of July, we played either Brazil or Germany.
Yeah.
In a game, and I remember it being a big deal because I want to say it was the round of 16. I could be wrong about that, but it was about as far as the USA had ever advanced, and it was a huge deal. We were playing them on the 4th of July, and it was a huge thing. We ended up losing, but I can't imagine. And that's why I say I don't know what our country would get into.
I'll give you a kind of a snippet, right? You talk about Uruguay in the, 3.4 million people. And they're like, how does a country of 3.4 million people have this much passion, produce this much talent, da-da-da-da-da? Well, everybody's playing it. There's no basketball, there's no football, there's no baseball, there's no lacrosse. It's soccer. And that's where the DNA, the passion, everything comes from. And I think England's quite similar. It's a smaller country, but it's the sport, right? There is no distraction for kids. There are other sports, but they're not anywhere near what football is, soccer, sorry. So you've got to understand the DNA and the passion of the person that's in that country. And that goes for most countries across Europe. Soccer is it. So the passion that you see and the passion that is displayed is true. It's not, hey, I'm a fan, la la la. I've grown up believing in this thing and wanting it to do well. So if England were to win the Euros, it would be huge.
Well, we'll discuss a little bit of the American soccer and where they are at right now with Greg Berhalter and what people are saying about him when we come back. We'll get some audio from that as well. Tony Annan in with us all morning. We'll get into a little bit more discussion with him in terms of college sports. In the next hour, you're listening to Coach Tony, Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Coach Tommy, I should say.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go. Yeah, Bill Gunner and Tyler Head. It is the early game. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing. For nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the Mid-State Roofing family, they have been the industry leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it is their proven history that is your assurance that they will get the job done for you. So just like the other night, Sunday night, came home, we had massive rain here in Columbia. My roof was ready to handle it, and they will do the exact same thing for you. So it's time for you, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's time for you to give them a phone call and line up some maintenance. That's right. You want to get a maintenance contract with Mid-State Roofing because, again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are ready to handle anything that you have. 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. Mid-State Roofing will have either an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee ready to take your phone call. So call today and get that maintenance contract lined up. 803-356-1919. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. If tax troubles have been weighing you down, they're stressing you out, keeping you up at night, it's time to call John Ecton and his team. You don't need that kind of stress in your life. And the Ecton Law Firm, they have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good. Whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, the Ecton Law Firm is ready to help you because they understand the challenges that you are facing. And that's why they're ready to offer you the peace of mind you deserve. Call today. Get a free consultation, 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. That IRS, well, they are sending out those dreaded notices of intent to levy or even liens, and you don't need that in your life. You need the Ecton Law Firm to step up and help you, and they're ready to do it today, again, with proven local solutions. 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Matt Crocker needs to review? What he needs a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet, or a TED Talk, or a retreat in order to figure it out? No, it's right there. You failed again. Now, Matt Crocker, in his first order of business in being hired, decided to rehire Greg Berhalter, okay? He went through an entire process and looked at other people and still came back to Greg Berhalter and nobody would have said anything had he moved on, given the circumstances after one cycle and certainly the things that happened and all the drama that was going around. And yet he said, no, this is my guy. And so Matt Crocker is attached to Greg Berhalter. And he's not going to find anything in the review process that's going to tell him anything that he doesn't already know, that we all don't know, that we all can see. So you want to do the review process? Fine. But if you're going to continue with Greg Berhalter, and that's certainly his prerogative, if he feels that Greg Berhalter is the guy to lead us into 2026, then fine. You can do it right now. You don't need a review process.
That is Alexi Lawless there on Fox talking about USA Soccer and the direction they're under. And, Coach, you hear that? Strong words, I think, from Alexi Lawless and what was, yes, a disappointing Copa America for the United States.
Yeah. Lawless.
You're a great analyst. I appreciate you being here to give us a good breakdown with, What
do you want me to say? I'm a coach. I mean,
I'm interested.
Lawless was an average player.
Oh, okay.
Very average, by the way. Could not have got on the squad these days at all. So average. But he was successful as a national team player. I can't take that away from him. But he has no idea what's going on. He's a pundit now. He's behind. He doesn't know what's behind the scenes. He doesn't know who interviewed for the job, who turned the job down. I mean, there's a lot of people turned the job down that people don't even know about. I mean, he went with Greg, right? I like Greg. I think Greg's a good coach. Has it gone well from this year? No, it has not, right? But it happens to many, many coaches, and all coaches are prepared for the consequences of that. And the only thing I agree with him that he said was, if they'd moved on from Greg, nobody would have cried. And I agree, because there was a lot of drama, there was a lot of stuff was around it that people would have said, you know what, it's time to cut loose. And I think that's the only thing I agree with him on. But he does it for clickbait, I think. He's just a very outspoken pundit who doesn't hold back, which some people like. I don't particularly like it. I don't like the way he articulates it. But at the end of the day, I think if there was a time to move on and have an 18-month stretch of a new guy, it may be the time.
Talent-wise, is this the best that America's ever had?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. I don't think you have a Clint Dempsey anymore. I don't think you have even a Mathis-type player. But again, the game's changing, the game's evolving, the game changes in all sports, by the way, not just soccer. But you could be successful in the 80s, 90s, and who knows if that translates into the 2000s and where we are now. You just don't know. Nobody can say that. Like, there are greats that would be able to play at any level at any time, but they're very few and far between. But I do think we miss a Dempsey-type guy. We don't miss a Lawless-type guy. There are better centre-backs than Lawless was. Mm-hmm. Goalkeeping, maybe you miss a Goose or a Friedel or one of those guys. But it's a strange time. But there's one thing that's sure: we do have talent. I think we have some very good attacking players on this squad,
and they should be in their prime in 2 years. 2 years from now, we agree with that? That they should be in their prime, and maybe you develop one or two, maybe three guys over the next 2 years that's ready to step in. To me, average soccer fan, although I've gotten more into it, I've enjoyed. I actually watched Brazil and Uruguay the other day. That was
fight.
That was a wild. Where I was at down in Florida, by the way, that was an interesting situation. But with all that being said, this is a showcase for the United States coming up in 2 years. You cannot fail to get out of pool play. I don't know how they'll do it, when they do it. They'll give you the pools. I don't know if they do that next year or when that comes about. But the bottom line is this is a showcase, and I think that's where a lot of people are coming from. And when you fail, as they just did in Copa, that's going to scare people as to looking like a complete failure when we are hosting the world. I guess us, Mexico, and Canada are hosting the world in 2 years.
Yeah, depending on your group and where you get put is...
How do they do that, by the way? Do you know?
It's drawn.
Drawn?
Yeah, it's a draw. I think they have the talent to get out of their group if it's a favourable draw.
Right.
I think their style of play and their attitude needs to be worked on. Because one thing you get with an American player is 110%. Everything. Like, we will go and go and go and go. And I truly believe that if you have the right person pushing that method, it will help this team, right? I don't think... The teams in the past the USA teams of the past were always hard-working, gritty grinders who got results that way. And now we've become a better soccer nation with more technical players and more creative players. We may have lost that gritty edge a little bit. This is my analysis.
No, this is, I like that.
And I think somebody, if they change the coach, needs to bring back, we are American players, this is our MO, we can be very, very good and gritty and work hard, right? So I think that's the direction I would say.
We'll continue talking about that. Also get into just what coach thinks about support staff and how important it is in college athletics. Obviously, your staff a little bit more limited, not like Shane's where he's got an army of people, but we'll get your take on that as well as we roll along. Coach Tony Annan in with us, Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. It is the early game.
Well, the one guy's been burning me down. I haven't said a word, not one word about him, but he has been ripping me.
Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. As we roll into July, August, September, October, go into the back half of the year, you might be thinking about doing something with your home. You might be thinking about buying. You might be thinking about refinancing. You may have even found that perfect piece of property where you're ready to build on. And I'll give you an example of what Jacob can do for you if you give him a phone call. First Palmetto Bank has a no-nonsense construction loan that will fit your needs. For more information, call the Mortgage Guru today, 803-719-1005. You can also email Jacob. The way to do that, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com. With interest rates kind of stabilizing a little bit, it is the time to contact Jacob Crowder and see what options are available for you. First Palmetto Bank is locally owned and operated right here in the Midlands, and that means Jacob has local decision makers for quick and precise underwriting. So if you're looking to make a move, now is the time. Give Jacob Crowder a call, 803-719-1005.
Time for another look at your traffic and weather in the WIS-TV Traffic Center. New accidents to report. This one's going to be at Industrial Drive and South Lake Drive on the west side of town. Still also showing that accident out at Farrer Road and North Pines Road, as well as the one that is at Augusta Road and Clemson Road as well. Taking a peek at your weather now as we've entered the 8 o'clock hour. It is still 81 degrees here in Columbia. High today getting up to 95 with some rain expected later on in the afternoon. High tomorrow 98, 94 on Thursday, 88 on Friday with thunderstorms expected to roll in. Let's look at your traffic and weather on your Thursday here on The Game.
We're rolling along into hour number 3 here. Men's soccer coach Tony Annan joining us this morning. I do like this text that comes in from Ron in Lake Marion. Where can I find a picture of the soccer coach? Just listening to his voice, I picture y'all talking to Gary Oldman. Turn your mic on.
I'm not sure that's a compliment.
Yeah, I like that text though. That's entertaining.
Thanks, Ron.
But talking with him, we've been talking Euro Cup as well as America. Right now, coming off of a disappointing performance at Copa America that occurred last week. And to go back, did you watch the Brazil Uruguay?
I watched the highlights because I was on the road.
Okay, that's right. You've been traveling, and you got a little more traveling coming up for you. Really fun, entertaining, and boy, I would imagine if England gets upset and we're a little upset about, if America's a little upset about their performance, I imagine Brazil did not handle that very well at all.
No, they're going to be distraught about that. They didn't expect to get bounced by Uruguay, but Bielsa's there and he's done the magic.
But the thing with Brazil, I was growing up and being introduced to soccer. There was Ronaldo, there was those fancy Brazil teams, and they were supposed to be, they were great. I think. What is it, 98, 90? I think they won the World Cup, and it was the big breakthrough for them. But they have not lived up to who they're supposed to be, right?
Who, Brazil?
Yeah. I don't know. Again,
Given their history from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, are they in a bit of a downturn? Yes. But they do not have these outrageously talented guys in their team as they used to. And again, the game has changed. There's no sport in the world where a team dominates for generation. The game's changed. The game's faster, the game's more physical. If you watch a team from the 70s, an unbelievable team like Brazil in the 70s and 80s, the pace of the game is so, I wouldn't say easy, but it's so slow compared to what it is now. And players have changed, the tactics have changed, the game's changed, the ball's changed, the field's changed, shoes have changed. I mean, everything has changed. It's not the way it used to be. And certain teams are excelling at this point, and certain teams haven't really turned that corner. But Brazil will always be great. It goes back to the DNA of the people. Soccer is it. There is no other. And that is a big difference. That's a difference maker. But they're struggling a little bit with their flair players having the space and time and ability to create. And that's where the difference is. That's where the rubber's hitting the road at the moment for them. But they're still an amazing team.
You brought up the idea last segment. You talked about technical versus creative. And when I think about Brazil, I always think about them being very creative. But then you just said how much the game has moved faster and everything's become more efficient. That seems to be two contradictory things where the flair guy can't really get there and do all of the fancy stuff because the game is moving so quickly. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, they can do it. It's just, it's less than it used to be. So it's like, the wow factor of Ronaldinho, you know, of
Well, Neymar.
Diego,
Neymar's.
yeah.
I think Neymar's in his 30s. I think he's 32. I could be wrong. Might be 33 or 34.
yeah. Look, if anybody had Ronaldo, the Ronaldo R9, if anybody had him in their team now, they would be winning, because there was nobody like him.
Right.
There was nobody with that ability, that pace, that power, and the scoring ability. Any team had him now, they would be dominating, I think. But Neymar's obviously a big miss, right? He's a skillful, creative guy. And if you watch a full game of Neymar, he struggles to get space and time. But when he does it, it's an amazing event.
Let me ask you this. Because Preston and I have talked about your peak years, your peak athletic years. And, for example, I was watching Portugal and Cristiano Ronaldo, I think is 37.
39.
Okay, I was 2 years
Pepe
behind.
was 41.
Huh?
Pepe, the centre-back for Portugal's
For Portugal?
41.
Good Lord. I'm 42. I know how much my knees hurt just playing a little bit of basketball. But what is the peak years for a soccer player? Is it 22 to 26, 24 to 28? Where are the peak years you think for a soccer player? Where then like we're watching these NFL quarterbacks play into their 40s now.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is trying to do it. You know, we've seen Drew Brees and Tom Brady and all these guys.
We only seen one do it. Let's be clear. Only one has done it. A lot of dudes are trying to do it. Aaron Rodgers
Yes.
has yet to do it. Drew Brees' arm fell off out of the socket. Only one guy has done it. I just want to be clear about that.
That's good. But you see these guys get. I mean, Kirk Cousins is not a spring chicken. That's why they just drafted a quarterback and created controversy. And he's what is
and
his
his
Cousins 36?
And his Achilles is torn to shreds last season.
Cousins is 30. He'll be 36 when the season starts. So
He had to go buy a new Achilles.
he's pushing up there. What are the peak years you think in soccer? Because I'm not picking on you, but we've seen you've got ankle issues, and they're from when you played, and because it's been entertaining with the group that I hang around because it's on in the afternoon and we can watch. We've watched soccer, and so they see these guys getting hit in the ankle or getting cleated in the shin, and they're like, "Oh, look at him flopping."
Yeah.
They don't understand how you get your ankle turned.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So what are the peak years you think?
again, going back to Preston's point, because the game has changed, it's faster, it's more physical, it's not more physical. There used to be way worse tackles back in the day than there is today. You don't get away with tackle from behind, you don't get a late tackle. But it is a faster game, things have changed, but I would say 26 to 30 are your optimal years as a soccer player. And that's just my opinion. It's not an official opinion, right? But you tend to see players really blossom through those years and really hit their stride. But you got players going into their 30s, 35, 36 now, you know, that wouldn't have done that 20 years ago. Usually about 31, 32, 33, people were done. But you've got players that are going on. Do I think Ronaldo's overstayed his welcome at the national team level? Yes. Unbelievable legacy, unbelievable player, one of the best to ever do it. But he doesn't look a shadow of himself. You know?
How do we feel about crying on the field? Did you see that was it last week? My days are running together. Where you missed. I was like, come on, man. But you see that, Preston?
Again, it's a bit, he's overstayed that, I think. It's that he's loved, he's admired, he's adored, but know when to leave the party is one of my commandments. And I think it's time for him to maybe not retire from football, but maybe international football. I think there's better players than him that are younger that can do more.
That could help.
But again, goes back to the coaching thing of he can win you a game at any point. Do I leave him in there? But I definitely think Martinez was politically swayed by his power at the national team level.
803-404-6100. So some interesting conversation there. We'll get into, again, a little bit of discussion with Coach as it pertains to just college athletics and support systems. And then Preston has some very serious questions for you. A proper English breakfast and Oasis. Are you an Oasis fan? Just so we can...
That's my band.
Oh, okay.
Any Oasis question will be answered.
We will
knew it.
We will
I
hit
knew it.
that as well. Preston, what was it?
What's the story of Morning Glory?
There you go. Yeah.
I even read your mind, you see.
Yep. There you go.
I knew it.
There we will
One of the
definitely.
greatest albums of all time.
Oh, good. You two will have a whole segment while I'll just sit here quietly and stare at my computer. 803-404-6100. You're listening to Coach Tony Annan, Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Tyler Head as well. It is the early game.
President, let me tell you about my friends at Integrated Media. It's not too late. 53 days until the season, 54 days until the Southern 500. Well, that means you still have time to get your indoor and outdoor setup ready. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs. You can get them waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, and Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. My personal favorite is that you can control all your devices from just one remote. So you can turn your TV on, turn your stereo on, control your Wi-Fi, everything from just one remote. So for home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
And another peek at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday. WIS Traffic Center still showing the accident out at Industrial Drive and South Lake Drive. Also still showing the one out at, Bookman Road and Old Two Notch Road as well. Other than that, everything seems pretty calm on the roadways as of right now. It is almost 8:15. Temperature right now, 81 degrees in Columbia. High today is going to hit 95. Do expect some rain a little bit later on in the day. High tomorrow, 98. 94 on Thursday. High of 88 on Friday with some thunderstorms moving in as well. It's the early game.
Rolling along here with Coach Tony Annan, Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Tyler Head, as we get you up and get you going on a Tuesday morning, 8:15 here as we go. And turning the conversation a little bit to your team, Coach, as it's today, July the 9th. You are roughly a month away from getting access, I guess probably a month from yesterday, getting full access to your team. You've made some new coaching hires. You got some new guys coming in. What excites you? Let's start with just what excites you about your club this year.
I think the depth that we have this year is a really exciting prospect of not having to rely on just certain players in certain positions. I think we've done a really good job of building the depth of the team. So I'm kind of excited about having options, having competitive, practice where the guy doesn't expect just to be the guy. So I think that's a really big thing that we've changed. Excited about the new staff. The new staff have come in and it's been night and day. It's been really, really good, really refreshed everything, including the attitude of the boys with it as well. So it's I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to get going and we go again.
You have, at least on Gamecocks Online, I don't know if we've talked a little bit about it. I don't know if you've officially released your schedule for the upcoming season. I know at least on Gamecocks Online, it's still last year's. But what can you tell us a little bit about the schedule and when people can get out to see y'all? It's
coming out this week, I think. I think they were working on ticketing issues before they released the schedule, but I think it's out this week.
Can you speak to when your first exhibition or your exhibition?
Yeah, we start the 10th of August is our first home exhibition against NC State. And then we have 3 exhibitions. We have NC State, College of Charleston and Mercer, all at home. We have 12 games at home this year, I think, so that's pretty cool. But, conference is the conference. It was number 2 in the country last year. The RPI was number 2, and it's those games are so tough, so it's going to be a tough schedule again.
I don't know. I'm just looking. I just know based on past history, typically you've got Clemson coming to you this coming
30th.
August 30th. So it will be
before the Old Dominion game. So Friday night.
Let's put it on the countdown.
Friday night, let's go. Mm-hmm. Everybody at Stone and then everybody at Bully B on Saturday.
There you go.
52 days.
52 days.
Got to put it on the countdown.
That's not going to be your season opener. Obviously, you'll have the exhibition
games. No, we've got
games.
2 games before Clemson.
Okay.
2 home games. So we've got plenty of games early.
Talk about some of the returning guys for your team that you're looking to see make a step this coming season. I know Mika is one of the guys, I believe, that you're very excited about.
Yeah, Mika Ebel, the German lad, is a sophomore. Really excited about him. He's my captain. He's a leader. He's the most driven kid I've ever worked with. I mean, he's outrageously driven. He's had an injury. He's coming back from that. He's okay at the moment, but I'm still pretty optimistic about him. We've got William Nielsen comes back. He's in his 3rd year. He's a centre back who we think this year could be a really good year for him. He's had 2 years of learning the curve. So we got in some transfer guys who I think they're 1 year and a couple of 2-year guys who I think will really help the squad maturity-wise, minutes in college, some experience. It's not rolling out 9 freshmen again. We've got some, like I said, some guys who I think can really step forward this year. Jonah Bigger, freshman last year, played a ton of minutes. He's really got the bit between his teeth by the looks of it, the way he's been training and the way he came back to campus at the beginning of June. There's 12 guys back already, which is amazing for us to have 12 of our guys training together, working out together on their own. But they've chose to do that. So, and it's not all just the American guys, there's some international guys. So 12 of 26 is a pretty good start. And then they're all back the 12th of July, bar the 3 international freshmen who can't come in until August. But I feel good about where they're at. And they seem to be in a good place.
Now, once they come back on campus, what does that mean?
So they usually take a summer class, and then they train every day.
They can train.
Captains practice, and they can train with speed and strength and agility.
Gotcha.
They can train with them as many times as they want as well. So they have to set it up. They have to do everything. I can't get involved in that, but the fact that they chose to come back as a group and say, listen, we're going to get ahead of the curve. Instead of August 6th, we report August 10th we play our first game, which is nuts, right? So,
Well, it's an exhibition, which I get. I know what you're saying, but at least it's not something that.
yeah, we only got 4 days of training before
Right.
you play a full match. And even though it's an exhibition, you still go after it. So the risk of injury is so high. So for them to come back and focus on getting stronger, getting fitter, and being prepared for those dates is a big tip to the way the mentality of the group is, you know?
Well, that assumes that once y'all can come back, once y'all report, you don't have to work as much on fitness. You can start working on tactical things. That's my assumption.
Yeah, that's totally sort of along the lines of why we do it, or why we say this is an option for you guys. Because nobody wants to train 4 days and then get into a game.
Right.
Or train 10 days or 11 days and then get into an official game, you know? So it's really good. Yeah.
How do you carry over what momentum you built at the end of last year? On senior day, you were able to beat Coastal Carolina. You did have a loss at Marshall, who at that time was number 4 in the country, but you bounced back in the Sun Belt tournament. You beat the number 1 team in the country in Central Florida, and then unfortunately lost to West Virginia. But, I mean, by the way, for those that don't know, you closed out the season playing your final 3 games, number 4, number 1, and number 5. That was the final 3 games, and it speaks to what the Sun Belt is. You just mentioned it, the number 2 rated conference in the country. So you're playing in an SEC-esque football except soccer conference. I mean, it's you guys Sun Belt takes a backseat to nobody. And again, as I just mentioned, your final 3 games came against 3 of the top 5 teams in the country. But you beat Central. How do you carry over momentum for a full year?
Yeah, I mean, look, we had some really good results last year. We beat Kentucky away for the first time in 12 years. We beat UCF 1-0 in that semi-final of the Sun Belt. Consistency is what we're looking. That's got to be the word for us this year. We played some good stuff. We had some great results. We had some poor results where our consistency was not even nearly where it needed to be. So, you know, we had a few injuries, but again, people will say that's coach speak. But consistency is the word, is the term that we have to get right this year, and we can do it. We've just got to be consistent when we do it.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. So let's turn our attention. South Carolina yesterday hiring Darren Usher to be their director of player personnel and recruiting. Preston and I joking about it, also cutting up. But at the college level now with so much changing, transfer portals, NIL, all these things that are occurring, you don't quite have the support staff that, say, football does. But what is the role of a support staff for you these days?
I think not just talking about college sports. I think professional sports, business, anything you're in, the support staff are the heartbeat of how this thing works. It's not a one-man job, ever. You know, you may have the title, the fancy title, but your job is to influence everybody underneath you, right, as well, and be the leader. But leadership comes in different forms, right? It's not. Sometimes it's the support staff are almost as important as anything you can have, and getting that right is really important to the ethos of your team, to the methodology of what you're doing. If the support staff are not behind you, or they veer from the message, or they're speaking a different language, or they're having conversations in their own little pod without anybody knowing, it's detrimental to the group's workings, right? So I think getting the right support staff in place is probably the number 1 priority of any head coach. You don't want everybody who's the same as you. You want people who challenge you. You don't want to be the cleverest man in the room or the smartest man in the room. When you think you are, you need to get in a different room. But if those support staff are not on the same page, they don't believe, or they have an agenda of their own, it's working against you. It's like driving with a flat tire. You know, you push the accelerator, but that flat tire is going to slow you down, and it's going to come off at some point, and it's going to end. So really, really difficult to find the right stuff. Really difficult to find the right personnel who match the message, the language, the method. But if you get it right, you could work in a really good, in a good way.
How do you see the role of a support staff? Is it as simple as just they're watching film and then coming to you and saying, "Coach, we got this recruit that we want to go look at that I think you should look at"? Is it as simple as they're watching film of your next opponent and saying, "Hey, here's a starting point for a scouting report"? What is in?
Again, it goes back to the whole corporation business, so to speak, as well. But in sports, you have to decide who does what. You have to hire people based on their ability and what they're good at, right? It's no good hiring a guy to do the analysis if he's not very good at watching the game and he can't be bothered to watch games and break it down. So you've got to put the person, and it's, again, cliche, put the person in the right seat on the bus. And I think Saban said that a few times as well. Right? Everybody said it, but you've got to select what they're good at. Why did you bring him in? How does he help? And what is his strengths? And play on his strengths and try and build up his weaknesses. That's your role as the head coach. So, again, they've got to be bought in. They've got to want to learn. They've got to be open to learn. And they've got to be also very good at what they do for everything to run in the right way.
803-404-6100. I do want to ask you real quick here. We just got a few minutes left. How NIL is impacting you and what you can speak to it as people look big picture at how it's obviously this is a huge portion of the summer for football recruiting with commits and everything, but how you're seeing NIL impacting recruiting, not how Garnet Trust is helping you or hurting you or anything of that. I'm just interested to know when you interact with recruits, what you're getting with NIL.
Obviously, last year, the year before, it was more transfer portal stuff than NIL, but NIL now is full on in every sport. It's not just football, basketball, baseball. Every sport's dealing with NIL. And every sport needs NIL, wants money to help them build their roster. And without it, you are a foot behind. Conversations are being had now where players are walking in and saying, hey, can you help me with NIL opportunities? How do I get NIL? Freshmen, guys we're talking to for next year. What are the NIL opportunities at college? An 18-year-old coming out of high school, what's the NIL opportunities? That's never a question you would have heard. But
right.
In the last 3 years I've been here, it's been the portal year 1, NIL year 2, and now we're talking about profit sharing, and so it's just a constant adjustment and, getting your head around it. But look, we're trying. We're working really hard to help our players with NIL and try and get some NIL, because they're some big programs that have some big money. And if we want to stay competitive and we want to stay in amongst it, we've got to do the work, and that's on me, right? Not the school necessarily. It's another part of being the GM, CEO of a college soccer team. You've got to do everything you can.
Well, and I go back to the support staff, and just like we read, Matt Lindsay, who's now the official title at Ole Miss is?
Yeah, his official title is general manager.
General manager of a college football team.
That's what you are.
Yeah, and that's totally different as opposed to just being the head coach like Lane Kiffin. But we'll get into that. What's the story, Morning Glory? Oh, boy, I'm just going to turn it over to you two. I do have a text in that I'll read to you and see which team you're on.
Okay.
I'll read it to you, and I think Preston can see where that's going based on, I'll ask you the question, Coach, when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, and Coach Tony Annan in with us. It's the early game.
Got chronic joint pain, not having success with steroids, but trying to avoid surgery? Well, thankfully, there's a better way, and it's available here now from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. I'm talking about new and advanced regenerative medicine treatments that can restore and repair damaged tissue in your bad joints. If you've got joint pain due to arthritis, knee pain, hip pain, or shoulder pain, don't just think the old ways of dealing with pain are the only ways. You need to learn more about these new regenerative options that can change your life. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in precision regenerative medicine, with over 100 clinics nationwide across America and literally thousands of satisfied patients. So call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860. Again, call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860.
Bill Gunner for Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning, where I tell you what, right now it is just past the 4th of July. You've had those big parties. People have been coming in your house. They've been tracking dirt and debris all through the carpet and everything. And what you need to do to get it clean is called Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. 803-262-4020, where right now you can get 15% off all cleaning services when you mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game. You heard that, right? 15% off. You can also book online. ZerorezColumbia.com is where you can do that. Use the promo code Summer Sale when booking online, ZerorezColumbia.com. Or again, give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, and mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and get 15% off all cleaning services. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Time for another look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday. Still showing an accident out at Industrial Drive as well as South Lake Drive. Also have the accident out at Bookman Road and Old Two Notch Road as well. Other than that, though, everything looking pretty okay for your ride in this morning. Weather, 82 degrees now in Columbia as the sun is fully up. High today is going to get up to 94. There will be another heat advisory as we have just about every single day in the month of July, as well as some rain expected a little bit later on in the afternoon. High tomorrow is going to hit 98. High on Thursday, 95. High Friday, only 88, but with some rain expected throughout the day as well. So look at your traffic and weather on your Tuesday here on The Game.
Have a good one. Good seeing you.
803-404-6100. If you hear something that intrigues you and you want to weigh in this morning, feel free to do that, just like AJ did. He says, is Coach on Team Noel or Team Liam in the Oasis Gallagher brother conversation?
I am Team Liam all the way.
Now, what does that consist of? Why would you be Team Liam instead of Team Noel?
Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I love Oasis. It's my favorite band of all time. Mm-hmm. But I just think Liam was the band. Liam was the best front man since...
Oh, boy.
Oh,
did you start it?
Did you see his face? He felt like he was about to give a hot take. I saw him walk himself back from the ledge.
He stopped quick.
Absolutely did. I'm going to stay back on the ledge.
There you go.
But for me, he epitomized the front man.
Push him a little bit, because I feel like we did that with the USA soccer discussion, and he just went down a path, but...
I just
what's
know
the
Stones without Mick Jagger?
Yes,
right?
That's where okay. I thought it was going. That's where
Beatles
I thought it was
never
going.
really had a front man, which is another band that I love. Right?
Okay,
but Liam just epitomized a front man for me, and people take it or leave it, especially in America. And they didn't hit America like they should have, but I think it was because of Liam's arrogance and his rudeness, and people were just not into that at that time.
Right,
but you know, Jagger was just as arrogant as Liam is. But it was a different time, so it worked.
Yeah,
well,
and I've stated I don't want I like my rock and roll singers and lead men to be that, because I'm not that, right? So I like to see those guys be all of the things that we normal people have.
Definitely say when I was 20 years old I wanted to be Liam.
There it is. Now I was listening, we was talking about our albums, and I came up on What's the Story, Morning Glory. And my experience with Oasis was very much through an American lens, through MTV, seeing these dudes, these brothers fight all the time, not really knowing the stories. Can you take us to that time with Oasis? First off, how big were they in Great Britain?
They were the biggest band in Britain. In fact, they were probably one of the biggest bands in the world at that time. Mm-hmm. I think one of the major reasons they hit in Britain so well, so hard, was they were working class. Britain loves a working class success story, right? There were guys from Manchester. Noel was a roadie for Inspiral Carpets, which was another band that I kind of grew up listening to. Stone Roses. Spiral Carpets. Who else was there? James at the time. Like they were like this band before Oasis hit. Anyway, Noel was a roadie. Liam was just working, doing nothing, and they got involved in this band, and it just came from nowhere. And like it wasn't like overnight, but it was pretty overnight, and they just hit, and it was the right time, the right cultural essence was swirling, and I think Britain just adopted them as that could be us, and I think that's why. And their music was fantastic. It's, in my opinion, of course.
When I listen to them, I definitely hear that it feels like they are of the people of Britain, whereas maybe some of the other bands, especially even the Britain bands, I won't say that they were like the upper crust, but they just feel more proper-ish. And this felt like the working man. Polished. That's the great word. This felt like the working man's band.
Absolutely. I think that's why they took, and then obviously their music's excellent. A lot of people had a thing about, they're trying to be the Beatles, They didn't hate the fact that the Beatles influenced them. And many bands have been influenced by the Beatles and even Elvis and, everything else. But I think, they were very open about their love for John Lennon and the Beatles music. And because Noel's songwriting kind of was close to that, I think people sort of either loved it or said, they're just trying to be the Beatles, which all bands emulate another band. The Killers started because of Oasis. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I can see the direct
Flowers
line.
went to see Oasis at the House of Blues in Las Vegas and decided to start a band called the Killers.
I believe the Killers is we might have missed them on the weekend, but they were on there.
Another amazing band, right? Timeless music. But you could put Oasis on today and go back to 94 and it takes me right back to that point in my life.
Yeah.
The music is timeless for me. And listen, I love the Beatles. I love Elvis Presley. I love R&B. I'm a massive R&B fan, so I'm all over the map. But Oasis is always my go-to when I need something.
Yeah, I just I think I might have stated when I listened to Champagne Supernova, I felt like I needed to be arm in arm with somebody walking out of a pub.
It's an anthem.
That's what it felt. I felt
Wonderwall.
like I needed to be.
Who doesn't know Wonderwall?
That's what I'm saying. I
It's an
agreed.
anthem.
I agreed.
Anthem.
And what was surprising to me is I had not, like I told you during the break, I hadn't listened to their albums. I just knew their singles through this, and I was aware of them. But what surprised me was how I put the album on, and Wonderwall was great. It was good, but there were some other songs on there that was so much were better, and just I thoroughly enjoyed the album.
Yeah,
and it was just something that was sort of unexpected to me.
I've seen them 3 times live, once in 2 small venues and once in a big venue, and every time I've seen them, I've never been disappointed in their live show either.
Yeah,
even though I saw them in Nashville at the Ryman, which is an old church, and the crowd was terrible. Like, it was so flat. And Liam just made fun of the crowd the whole night, like blowing in his hands, like it's cold in here, and and it wasn't a great atmosphere because the crowd was like, I guess when you watch Oasis in Europe, the crowd is bouncing. I mean, it's up, and here it's not so much. It's like I didn't enjoy being at that show, but I enjoyed watching them. So
gotcha. Bill,
I got nothing. I do know that after this, I will listen to some Oasis today.
I'm just telling you, just put the album on and just without, whether maybe you're doing something around the house and you just find yourself like, oh man, that's a good tune right there.
Okay.
It's rock and roll. It was proper music.
It was, I don't know if it's better. I can't say it's better than I expected, but it was very good.
I don't know if I'd ever consider it rock and roll. Like, to me, I guess rock and roll is different.
What is it then? Don't say pop.
No. It's more in the, I don't know how I would label it in terms, I guess for me, you talk about where it takes you to your time in life when in 94.
Oh, here we go. What were the Beatles? Were they rock and roll?
I wouldn't consider them rock and roll. I wouldn't. I don't know. I've never gone down. I mean, we're having a conversation that I've never anticipated having in terms of genres of music. To me, I wouldn't.
Led Zeppelin. Rock and roll?
I'd consider Zeppelin more rock and roll.
Why?
The acoustics, instruments, I guess, is what I'm going for. Like I feel like
it's the same.
No, because I feel like Oasis is more in that genre of a singing type of. Whereas I never consider Lynyrd Skynyrd or ZZ Top. I know they're singing. I got it. I got that portion of it. But I never would consider them singers, if that makes sense. It's kind of like Kid Rock. For whatever reason, I've gone on a Kid Rock kick of late, and like I would never consider him I know it's a weird path.
This is why our music tastes are so far apart, Bill.
I just drove for 18 hours over the last.
Kid Rock.
Gone down the path of Kid Rock, yeah.
My goodness.
I would go on a limb to say that Kid Rock's
Pop
will not be showing up in the 100 albums.
Most likely not. I'd be shocked. Well,
Jimmy Page wouldn't be very happy if you're saying Zeppelin wasn't a singer, because
it's not. But I don't know. For me in that era of music. In that era, that was really about 94. That was really like the MTV days. That's really when I started. I was 12. If you go back to the summer, we were talking about Wimbledon here a little while ago, and I was talking about the three of us off air. We're talking about how we understand. You were comparing Wimbledon, I guess, over there to being the Masters here. And the reason I know that, as opposed to the French or the Australian Open or even the U.S. Open, is because it was during summertime where you'd get up and I got nothing going on. Flip on the TV, it's on. You're like, oh, okay, sports. Okay, men's, women's, singles, whatever, I'm watching it. Back then, about 12-year-old Bill Gunner was learning, oh, this MTV. Oh, we got a lot going on MTV. Oh, okay. Was it Kurt Louder?
Man,
Kurt Loder.
Oh, Kurt Loder.
Coming on, giving me the quick news update. Like, that's where I was getting my news from. But I say that because just like the music videos and everything, it's not what I envisioned or I had been trained early on to be rock and roll, if that makes sense. Like
it's like anything, it evolves, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like.
I don't like the way they've categorized rock and roll. Grunge rock, alternative rock, and I don't like that. It's rock and roll.
803-404-6100. We'll wrap that one up. Proper English breakfast as well.
Yeah, I'm just satisfied with the conversation. When I heard this album, I immediately texted Bill. I said, we have to get Tony on the show.
I always like Preston, and I like him.
So unfortunately, you was actually out there working, so we couldn't talk Oasis. But we're back, and we have made all things right.
We'll wrap it up next. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. John Ecton and his team, they understand that if you've had some tax troubles recently, if the IRS has been after you, you're stressed out. And that's the way it is. It's just the way it is. But you know what? The Ecton Law Firm is ready to help you. They have proven solutions. They know what they're doing. So whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence, whether you're in Myrtle Beach, they are really ready to help you. And call today and get a free consultation. 803-7, oh boy, and now I got to go back and find the phone number there for the Ecton Law Firm. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. Get a free consultation with the Ecton Law Firm today. Do not let tax troubles stress you out. John Ecton and his team know what they're doing. So again, give them a phone call, 803-771-9800. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the team, they have been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's their proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. Let's be honest, at 8:47 in the morning, are you really thinking about your roof and how it will handle strong winds, heavy rain, maybe even a little bit of hail? Well, you're probably not. But Mid-State Roofing is. And that's why 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they are ready to help you with a maintenance contract. So give them a phone call today, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You will speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee, and it doesn't matter what time it is. That's what 24 hours a day, 7 days a week means, and it means a lot to the folks at Mid-State Roofing. They're ready to help you. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Wrapping it up here on a Tuesday morning where I'll be back for several weeks now. The vacations have come to a conclusion for me. I've got one more left in August, but that'll be we will be back, and we'll get you ready for SEC Media Day. Our Media Day is coming up next week. That'll be starting Monday, where we'll have Shane Beamer talking along with Alex Huntley, along with, I'm a little surprised, by the way, just real quick, I'm a little surprised Nick Eamon-Warry's not going. Maybe if I had to, I know you can only take 3, but you've got Alex Huntley, Debo Williams, and Luke Doty going. 3 great representatives. Coach, real quick, how do you weigh, when you have to make a decision on who's speaking, how do you weigh that?
Coach, right now, you think about your team. You have some guys that you would want to go speak. You have some guys that you would maybe prefer not speak. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the better players, the best players, but you just know who you want to represent your program, right?
Absolutely. 100%. You know exactly who you want in front of the camera.
Right. Yeah, I think that, I mean, and I've seen interviews with Nick, and Nick is a great kid, and I think that would be a good pick for sure. But coaches know who they want to go out and speak for the program.
Yeah, no, it's not that. Look, again, those are 3, Huntley, Debo.
They're gonna do absolutely awesome because we've seen them, we've heard them speak. They're gonna do. It's gonna be a little bit. Maybe you're not gonna get a lot of sizzle from them, but that's probably what you want.
At this point, I don't think sizzle is what.
Right.
Well, you know what, and I say that out loud because I wonder if Nick Eamon-Warry was on the list, and then a week ago or a week and a half ago, was it 2 weeks? It might have been 2 weeks ago where he was like, yeah, we have a historical defense. I'll put my name on it, and Shane went, scratch. All right.
Yeah, you may not want him to go say that at Media Day.
We'll keep you home. Debo, you're in. You're in as the replacement, but very entertaining. 803-404-6100. A couple of y'all weighing in. Soup Dragons were great, too.
I just
said it. Just wrote it down.
Yep. Soup Dragons.
Spiral Carpets.
Mm-hmm.
AJ says nobody breaks down music genres like Gunner. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Alternative is a good word. I think Steven used that on our live stream where you go, alternative is probably the way I would go with, describing Oasis.
I'll argue that all day long.
Okay, what's alternative to you?
Nirvana. That's alternative.
No, I'm with you on that.
Blink 182 is alternative.
It's funny you mentioned that.
They are nowhere near the category of what we're talking about.
What do you got? You're just rubbing your hand.
No, I like it. This is great conversation for me.
Ocean Colour Scene, another great band. I'm just going to.
What'd you just say?
Ocean Colour Scene. Unbelievable band.
You got to. You do. I have forgotten just because I know you've been busy. Your affinity for as we come back in, naming, especially when you started, because we have the same kind of intro music, comeback music every time.
Yeah.
But your affinity for naming our whoever is playing in our intro music.
Bumper music.
Bumper music, yeah.
That's my thing. I love music. Music's been my thing my whole life. So.
When did you really get into it? Like 7, 8, 9? I mean,
my dad used to play Elvis non-stop. My mum was a Beatles non-stop. I was in EDM. I was into R&B. I mean, I will stick on Luther Vandross, mate. I love Luther Vandross. It's like, I'm all over the place. I think I was on the bus coming back from Georgia State, and John Whittle was with us.
No.
And I was walking down the bus from the back of the bus, and I had my headphones on. He goes, Coach, what are you listening to? And I went, Luther. And he went, what? I went, I'm listening to Luther Vandross. He went, you listening to who? Like, he was amazed I was listening to Luther Vandross. But I listen to all sorts. I love music. It's very therapeutic to me.
Okay. All right. So we'll wrap up the show with the proper English breakfast because you got into that a little bit last week.
We just wanted to talk because we were saying that, you know, on the 4th of July, Bill said that the only time he actually even
baked bean season ended yesterday.
He only brings out baked beans on 4th of July. And I just wanted to get your stance on the proper English breakfast.
Interesting. It varies which part of the country you're in. But I'll give you the Northeast.
Okay.
The Northeast is fried eggs, bacon, proper bacon, not the rashers over here. Real
Yeah. Because from what I've heard, bacon in England and bacon in America are two entirely different.
Yeah, bacon in England is almost like country ham here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right, but it tastes amazing. So fried eggs, bacon, baked beans, black pudding, if anybody knows what that is. I'm sure there's listeners who do, but
I think you told us
no
one time, and
potatoes.
it
No
sounded
potatoes.
awful.
No potatoes.
no, it's toast.
Okay.
You may have some sausage on there as well, like a Lincoln sausage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in some parts, like tomatoes, like grilled or fried tomatoes as well. But that is pretty much a Northeast English breakfast. And it is
I can get on board with that.
amazing.
All right, I can get on board, but
Especially after a long night.
I still hear.
That feels like, a long night of partying in the Oasis would definitely have a proper English breakfast.
The next day could be an English breakfast.
I
cup of tea. Don't forget your cup of tea.
Cup of tea.
With milk and sugar.
Black coffee, though.
Milk and sugar.
Milk and sugar.
black
Not a
coffee?
cup of tea.
No black coffee?
Yeah, I mean, these days,
Instead of
yes,
tea?
but tea was the staple with breakfast.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I to finish that there, baked bean season is over here. It is officially ended Sunday at midnight. No more baked beans. Save the cans for next year.
Till Thanksgiving.
They'll still no.
He brings them all the way out to the next year.
Yeah, they're only good again and says starting the July 4th week next year is when you can get back into it. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Coach, always appreciate having you in.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
A lot of fun this morning. Glad to be back. Be back for a few weeks. We'll roll along tomorrow morning. Thank you to Tyler Head for joining us. It's been the early game.
Let's go begin my full day.
Got chronic pain, joint pain, not having success with steroids, but trying to avoid surgery? Well, thankfully, there's a better way. And now it's available here from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. This is an all-natural way to use highly concentrated